Greetings, family. Sister Shanice here. How are you, our magnificent, blacknificent family? I certainly hope that you are all well. I hope that you've risen in power. I hope that you've risen in strength. I hope that you've risen to accomplish much today. We're certainly looking forward to another really interesting discussion today on the Sister Shanice Show. I've got guests who are getting ready backstage, and as soon as they're ready, I'm going to be bringing them on. As you would have seen from the publicity, we've got quite a lineup for you today. So keep it locked to the Sister Shanice Show. As you come in, please do give us a thumbs up, do give us a like, and as you get comfortable, please also just message me in the chat. Let me know where you are viewing us from. What part of the world are you at the moment? And Wagwan, where you day? Okay, we've got Professor backstage. He's just sorting out his camera. Then I'll be able to bring him on. We are also expecting our brother, Prophet Maduti, to be joining us quite soon as well. And we also are expecting none other than Leader Bandaka alongside our brother Kodjo. He was backstage earlier and then had a power cut. These are some of the challenges that we have to deal with when we broadcast from the continent. So got a great show lined up for you. Our brother Kodjo, hopefully, you know, the power cut won't get in the way for too long, and he will be able to join us from Ghana. And we've also got our professor, Akubon, who is going to be joining us as well from the Cameroon, just waiting for him to sort out his camera, and then we will be bringing him in. So rising up the entire family who are rather already in the audience. Let me know that you are there, that you are logged in. So we've got the God in me. Good afternoon, African kings and queens, and rising us up from New York City. Welcome on board, New York City. It certainly is a joy indeed to have you in the house. Okay, so family, as I say, I hope you have risen in power and strength to accomplish much today. What has your day been like? What has your strong been like? Certainly hope that you have been working towards the furtherment, the upliftment of us as a people, because only we can do for we. That is our mantra. And for those of you who are locked in, who was watching me today, or rather tuned in to me today on the Big G Galaxy Afiwi, the only de-brainwashing station, I thank you so much for tuning in. And if you didn't, wow, what a show you missed today on the Big G Galaxy Afiwi. And, try not to miss future shows. Just log in to galaxyafiwi.com. Every Wednesday from 10 a.m. through to 1 p.m. GMT time, okay? And tune in to the Sister Shanice Show. As always, we have an action-packed show. Today, there were so many topics that we were talking about. We were talking about, for example, the situation in Ghana with the LGBT office being closed down, and we are saying, oh, them bright, them don't know, say, that kind of activity is illegal in Ghana, yet them go right to Accra and say about them an open office and have the nerve to complain when the people them decide say them are gonna lock them down. So we did discuss that today on the Big G. Also, we were talking about the fact that the president of Ghana has gone ahead and him and his vice president and has supposedly taken the big coronavirus jab. And it's like, wow, and they've ordered how many hundreds of thousands for their population, and we're like, oh my days, do we as a people not learn from Ebola? Do we not learn from HIV/AIDS? What is it going to take for some of our people to actually wake up and realize we're really a going outside there? And even though the man, Bill Gates, said with him, oh no more, said this is part of a depopulation agenda where them are dealing with, nevertheless, we still roll out them program like we know business, like for population don't matter. So, we had a discussion about that earlier today as well. And of course, where I am in Ghana, at the moment we've got power and internet, long may it last. Out here in Ghana, them hard sore have received a large consignment of the same colonial virus that they are intending to try and jab into the population on the Western continent. And we was looking at that situation, and alongside the news headline from Israel to say that as a result of the AstraZeneca vaccine there, the number of deaths have just skyrocketed. So there's been a bit of an investigation into what's going on there in Israel. We had a discussion about that today. And we were also, looking critically at some of our so-called celebrities who actually came out, in support of the LGBTQ agenda. We said, hold Idris and what's your name? Naomi Campbell are going to come out and support that agenda, and we have major issues in our community, and they're not come out and support it. So I said, hold them, come out and support that. But yet, when our people are being brutalized on the streets in the UKKK, when our people are experiencing, harassment and murders in police custody and overrepresentation in the prison systems, and I could go on and on and on, them don't come out and say anything at all, yet them will come out in support of something we're going clear over in Ghana. And we have to remember, there's European culture and there's African culture, and there's no blurring of the lines. So why these people feel them can come clear from Rome and come bring for them something at Africa and we for accept it? Me no understand it. Rise up, Prophet Maduti. Welcome. You understand what I want?
Yes, I was picking up what you're saying, my sister. And what is strange is that these celebrities are people who live in Britain, and the African population in Britain is not that big. It's not a large population. So you're bound to hear what's going on in the community. And we have a reparations movement here that has been going on for a few decades. And we haven't heard any of these particular individuals make reference to reparations for Africans, whether for the continent or in the diaspora. I'm not surprised by them, my sister. This is just the nature of how it works. They live here in Britain and they want to get along. They don't want to be seen as somebody who is going against the status quo. They have these big jobs that they get paid vast amounts of money for. Now, Idris Elba is a very successful actor, and Naomi Campbell is a successful model. And so they work within the confines of the studio or the people that controls that fraternity. So
that's right.
I'd be more surprised if I heard them speaking about something that affects us, that specifically directed at us. Listen, sis, I'm going to have to change over my system because there's a bit of delay on my system. So give me a couple of minutes.
Okay, go through, my brother, and let's welcome Rise Up Prophet. Yeah, we'll see you black in a short while. And we have Professor Akumbum joining us. Let's hear from you, my brother. How you doing? Greetings. It looks as though there might be a bit of a delay. My brother, Professor, please take your microphone off of mute and welcome. Whilst he's doing that, let me go over to the chat and see who we've got in the chat. We've got Hard Peace, Peace and Power from South Africa. Peace and Power, Black Acha family. And we've got Greetings, Sister Shanice from Africa Queen. Welcome, Africa Queen. We've got Ingrid Jarrett in the house from Orlando, Florida. Hey, Professor, I'm getting some feedback. Can you please... Professor, I'm getting some feedback. Can you please mute one of your devices? Please mute one of your devices. Okay, so Professor is, as you can hear, he's struggling to sort himself out in the background there. Professor, I'll bring you back on, but please do mute one of your devices. We're getting some feedback, so just use maybe either your computer or your laptop, please, in order to communicate with us so that we can get some really good sounding audio. Let's see if he's managed to sort out the audio for us. When you've sorted it out, please unmute yourself and I'll bring you in again. So rising up, Ingrid from Orlando in Florida. Also, we want to rise up Rosemary King, who's locked in. She says, greetings, Sister Shanice from the UKKK. Looking forward to a great discussion and learning experience. We got Afrijamo saying, greetings, Sister Shanice, Plano. My African brothers and sisters worldwide, watching from Ghana. Yes, family, we were having a discussion earlier today on my show that involved Ghana. And we've got Andrew Stonehenge, who says, hi, family, tuned in earlier. Yes, Sister Shanice, great show. And how your Wi-Fi working? And don't cut off. Fingers crossed it won't cut off. And, we've got Surfer in the house. Rise up. He's saying, Woodham family, rise up. And we've got Bossman in the house saying they won't give us reparations, but they can find billions in quick time to fund giving us poison vaccines. For real. Now, no one give us reparations, but then quick time find vaccine money. A true talk. And let's welcome our brother, Professor Akumbum. Let's see if we can hear from him. Welcome, Professor Akumbum. Please take your device off mute. Let's try again. Rise up, Professor Akumbum. There could also very well be a bit of a delay. Professor Akumbum, come in. Rise up, my brother. Are you hearing us? Okay, at the moment, family doesn't seem to be hearing us at all, but let's hope that the problem gets resolved as we go on today. So we've got, great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Greetings, Professor. Please bear with us.
Thank you very much, Shanice, and to
I am well.
I don't know if you guys can get
family in the chat, please let me know how it's coming out, because it's sounding very broken here at the moment. So we are, yes, always pushing the boundaries to try and deliver. Professor is trying to communicate with us. Can you hear him? Is it just me who's having difficulty hearing, Professor? Please let me know in the chat. Okay, you are sounding, it's so broken. Yeah, the sound is broken. So the chat is saying.
Yes, I'm getting you.
Unfortunately, we're unable to hear you, Professor. I wonder if there's something that you could try and do, because at the moment, the chat is, people in the chat are saying the same thing. The sound is breaking up. Let me put that message up so that he knows what's going on. The sound is breaking up. The sound is broken. So it looks as though Prof is going to try and log out and come back in again. So let's hope that he manages to get sorted out there. Rising up, everyone in the chat. And apologies for the sound and technical problems here. This is what it's like when we try and broadcast from the continent. You know, they don't want us communicating. Today, you know, the show that we've got lined up is a show that involves a brother from Ghana. They got a power cut. just as he was about, we were talking backstage and then the power went, and he's going to try and come back. So, and then we've got Professor who's joining us from the Cameroon, and he is experiencing difficulties as well. But we've got Prophet who's calling in from the UKKK. And as you can see, the UK doesn't seem to have problems when it comes to the internet. Don't we need our engineers over here? Prophet, I was just saying, we were trying to communicate with Professor Akobom, who's calling in from the Cameroon, but major difficulties. We're unable to communicate with him effectively. And earlier, we had our brother Kojo from Ghana. I was communicating with him backstage, and they had a power outage. So we don't know where Leader Bandaka is. Hopefully he will be joining us at some point soon. But we're going to press ahead regardless. So let me introduce to the family our brother, our panelist, Prophet Maduti Kwaku. Prophet Maduti, affectionately known as Prophet Kwaku, or the Prophet, is also a presenter on the Big G Galaxy Afiwi, the only de-brainwashing station. And he's also, you can get Prophet on a Thursday evening inside the Nubian People's Forum talk show. And that's from 9 p.m. through to 12 midnight. And what a show you are going to get every Thursday from Prophet. And he talks about everything from an African-centered perspective. He's also spent over 30 years in education, teaching at the Nubia African Community Foundation Saturday School that he's been involved, as I said, for running for over 30 years. He's a community activist. He's also a former chair of the African Emancipation Day Reparations March Committee. He's a popular stand-up edutainer here on the Black Circuit in the UK. He's also a photographer, works along ADE Photographic Services in Rye Lane, Peckham, as well as Sharp Photography. And he has a passion for African liberation, psychologically, culturally, spiritually, technologically, economically, politically, everything from an African-centered perspective. And so I'd like to welcome to the discussion today our very own Prophet Maduti Kwaku. Rise up, Prophet. Take yourself off mute, my brother. Prophet?
Yes,
Yeah.
Hotep.
Hotep.
Just want to say, greetings, and we must give honor and thanks, and we must always put forward our ancestors before anything that we do. And so we put forward the creating force of the universe, omnipotent being that which is greater than ourselves, who has many names over the Marian Kulukulu, Wame Blackfire She, Mungo, Onieme, Amen Ra, Ashe. What I wanted to say earlier in regards to what you were saying earlier, my sister, you never hear any of those so-called black-looking people who call themselves celebrities coming out and speaking about reparations. Nobody wants to talk about reparations. It's almost as if that 500-year period of our history is just swept underneath the carpet. And what assists to that is the impotence of the movement, of the apathy of the majority of our people. Oh, there's some noise in the background, sis. I don't know what's happening there. I'm hearing noise.
Let me put my...
Yeah, there is apathy in the majority of African communities, and that's globally. And so reparations is something that nobody don't want to talk about. And so these people can come out and they can speak about things that have no concern with their own people. But they want to drive us down the road of taking vaccines. These same people come out and say, we must take vaccine, we must take the vaccine, etc. They never support anything that is pro-African. You understand? If it doesn't have a mixed element to it, they're not interested in it. You understand what I'm saying to you? But when the Asians are talking about their things, you know, the Chinese, the Pakistanis, the Bangladeshis, the Indians, and these various other groups, them same people there will support them. But for their own thing, they're not interested in it. And it's a problem that we have across the African world. Anyway, you find it, even on the continent, in the Caribbean, in the Americas, and in Europe, and even in Australasia. You see what I'm dealing with? So I don't expect nothing from them. When they do that, that doesn't surprise me. I am not surprised by that, Sister Shanice. And I don't think even you should be. And those of us who are Africated, who's been on this road a long time, we should not be surprised. We should not be surprised by their actions, because they are not for their people. They are for whatever is good for them. You understand me? I say, in some cases they might be frightened. Who knows? Because remember, they're in this industry. They move amongst the wealthy and powerful people. So they are in a position to see the length that these people go to destroy people. They may even have something on them. Who knows? I don't know. Because I don't know them personally. If you understand what I say. So it's nothing personal to them two individuals, but it's a general coverage of that kind of nature amongst us as African people. See what I'm saying? So, you know, I don't hear them coming out and supporting President Magafuli. I don't hear that. They won't. But they will support somebody who don't look like them. Who don't have their interests at heart. And I say this to, I don't know how many people's going to view this. I don't know how many people's going to see it. But it's important for us as African people, globally, to realize that there is a global reparations movement. It might not have the media coverage that these other things have, but it is there. It's happening here in Britain, it's happening in the Americas, it's happening in the Caribbean and other parts of Europe. There is a reparation movement. Because those of us who are children of the kidnapped people then will not let them get off with, oh, they have benefited from that 400 years. Imagine having somebody for 10 years doing things for you, making you make profits of extraordinary percentages, and you don't have to pay them nothing. Imagine what they would do for you and create an intergenerational wealth. And then what they do, they use their media to demonize the descendants of those people that suffered, to make us feel that we are not good enough, that we don't work hard enough. Yeah? You know, there's that saying that, oh, typical black people come later, typical black people, they don't work hard enough. Well, let me tell you something from now. In any job that you do, using tile to annual leave, we work for 400 and odd years. We have 400 and odd years annual leave. Yeah? With pay. You understand me? I say, I'm come to talk about black people. We built your stuff. We built it. My father, my mother, and my wife, parents, and everybody build all of this thing here. So that you can live on an affluent life now. And you're still living off us. Because our brothers and sisters that we were ripped from in Africa, you stay there like leeches, stealing out the resources and doing whatever you wanted with it and working with the people that collaborate with them. Yeah, the treasonous Africans that work with the enemies of Africa to impoverish African people so that they could go back to their dingy, dirty Europe that never have nothing after the Romans left. Yeah, that they went back into them dark ages after the Romans left. See? And steal. And we have to come back and build it for now. I don't have the audacity to tell we say We lazy. Eh? When I work with my father and my uncle on building side, yeah? Every 2 minutes, the white boy them take coffee break, tea break. Yeah? Every minute, them a tea break or a fag break. On a fag break. While my old man and my uncle at work. You know, so that behavior, my sister, don't surprise me. I am not surprised by it.
We
You know
hear you. We hear you
because
on that topic.
their whole thing is about they don't want to offend the white man. They're afraid to offend the white man. I'm not standing here telling no lies on white people. I don't have to. Their history is quite capable of speaking for itself. You understand me? I say.
Absolutely.
Anything with me what me saying is concrete truth. I don't lie on them. Bring in Professor Akepom. Is it Akumbom? Yeah, Akuabom. Come in, my brother.
Take yourself off
mute.
Take yourself off mute, please, my brother, Professor Akobom, and welcome. Let me introduce you. Take yourself off mute, please.
The network, I don't know if it's not the other side. There's a problem with volume. I can't get anything at all. I don't know if you guys get me.
Welcome, Professor Akobom. There's still a bit of a problem with the audio.
Are you getting?
We're kind of catching every other word.
Problem, so I get anything, nothing.
Yes.
If you're getting me,
still breaking up.
From China.
The line is very bad.
War all Africa. Now that the times in relation to the logical failures that we are having right now, we could develop our own system that would be fitting to communicate. It seems you guys getting me.
No,
God.
no. The line is very bad. We're not hearing you clearly at all. Let me, I'll send you a message, you know, but the line is very bad. Let me just post that so our brother knows.
Where is he transmitting from, sis?
It's calling in from the Cameroon. And it's such a shame that we can't hear from the professor, because I know he has been looking forward to and has been preparing for today. And as you can see, his line has frozen again. So we're not hearing from him clearly at all. We've just lost him altogether there, unfortunately. So our professor is an educationist and the Chancellor of the Christos Theological University, Douala, in the Cameroon. And he also lectures in several higher learning institutions in the Cameroon and out of the Cameroon. He's an entrepreneur, a financial counselor, and a founder and president of the United Africa for Economic Empowerment. And I'm certainly hoping that we will be able to bring him back today. So family in the audience, I want to thank you so much for your understanding. The professor is backstage. He's trying to come back on. And once he has been able to come back on, I will bring him on. But let me get on to the topic for discussion today. Actually, I don't know what's happened to Leader Bandaka either. Let me just see if there is a message from Leader Bandaka in the chat. No, there's not a message from leader, so not sure what's happening there either. So again, apologies for the technical difficulties. You're all only too aware of the challenges that we experience when we broadcast, when we try and broadcast from the continent. So, Prophet, we are going to sail this ship together, all right, tonight. So, the topic for discussion today is investing in Africa. And the sound of investing in Africa would, I think, for most of us, suggest business, partnerships, yeah, and a win-win sort of scenario. But what we're going to do is we're going to peel beneath, you know, that concept of investment to look at what investment actually means for Africa. What is it looking like for Africa? And what is our understanding of investment as well? So this is, you know, one of the major questions that we're going to be looking at today. Let me try again to hear. Let's hope we've got a better line with Professor Akubum. Professor, can you hear us? Are you able to communicate with us? Professor Akubum? Wow. Family, we need our own telecommunication network systems. As you can see, you know, the powers that be are preventing us from communicating.
Right,
it's not good. The line is still bad.
Network breaking. Certainly, we have
the line is too bad, my brother. It's breaking up. Unfortunately, you know, we're unable to hear you clearly. Oh, it's such a shame. My brother, there's an awful delay. The line is still very, very bad. We're unable to hear you, unable to communicate. I'm afraid I'm just going to have to press on. And, you know, we will keep you there. And if the line clears up, then we welcome the opportunity to hear from you and to bring you in on the show. Someone is suggesting that I check WhatsApp. Okay, Tendamari, let's.
Understand? Hear me? I know I'm not in garden. Okay.
It's not going to work. Right. We are having some technical difficulties there. I've just got a message to say that Leader is also trying to access and is having some difficulties. So let me just resend the link as well to our Leader so that he can hopefully join us as well. Hey, do you think it could be technical sabotage going on around here, Prophet? How are we on tonight? You know, I'm going to make an attempt to start again in a little while. I'm just resending the link to Leader Mandaka, and let's hope that he will be able to use this link to join us via the internet. So here we go. Prophet, were you? I know actually you were logged into family. I'm just going to have a little bit of a conversation just to give Leader 5 minutes to come on. Okay. All right. Prophet, you were in tune to Trenchtown on Sunday. I don't know how many of you in the chat were also logged into Trenchtown, Jamaica, but Trenchtown, Jamaica had a wonderful event on, which was the launch of their fundraiser to raise funds for a Trenchtown kind of hallway of fame, a whole area, museums dedicated to their greats, because so many greats have come up through Trenchtown. What did you think about the initiative, Prophet Maduti?
I thought that the initiative was a great initiative. It's sad though that the ordinary people them having to try to create a sanctuary for the one thing that made Jamaica, known worldwide. Yeah, they've got sports people and things like that over the years that's brought the island into notoriety. But the single most thing that has made Jamaica great has been its music. And that music primarily was reggae music.
All right.
I was surprised to see that there wasn't many of the kind of new artists them that everybody kind of are more familiarized with in the last 2 decades that attended that event. I don't know if them did know or they weren't aware of it. I don't know. But something, it was good to see Ken Booth.
Yes.
Ken Booth's voice never changes. It stays the same. And he's in his 70s too.
Yeah.
So, it was sad to see that Bonnie Wheeler move on to the ancestors. He did a little snip thing down there. But it's sad really to see that Jamaica have a whole heap of great artists. You have to me say that stage should have full of them. I support an initiative like
you don't know how it goes. Some people only
want to rush up. We want to rush up. We want to rise up. Brother Russell Singh. We want to rise up. Brother Stone, Tapazuki, who we spoke to the other night, and other people who we don't remember their name, but who you are. You are the principal people them that organize the event, and we wish you all the best.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so our leader will join us when he gets a chance, but we are going to push on with the show tonight because we've got a very important topic to discuss, and we will be flying the ship until the others are able to find a way of joining us. And even Professor has been desperately trying to get on as well, but the technical interference has been such that it's been preventing him from joining us as well. So what are some of the questions that we're going to be addressing tonight? Let me go through the questions. And family, this is such a big topic that the likelihood is, we will be continuing the conversation next strong as well, because this topic is deep, okay? And there's a lot that we need to address here. So questions, some of the questions that we as a panel are going to be addressing tonight. What are the historical effects of foreign investment on the African continent? Is the free market a viable economic model in the African continent? In the African context, investments more conducive to Africans' economic prosperity? Is neocolonialism conducive political context for Africans' economic development? Is foreign investment really empire building under another name? What lessons can we learn from Kwame Nkrumah's legacy in Ghana between 1957 and 1966? We're also going to be asking, and as you can tell, there are so many questions, it may well be that some of these questions will have to continue next strong. What fundamentally drives or attracts foreign investments into Africa? Is it to develop Africa for foreign or for profit? Is it lack of regulatory control, or its history of exploitation? What is Africa's interest in the continuous cycle of exploitation of Africa's land and the people by foreigners? How can this interest be put forward to be protected? Does Africa need foreign investors at all? And if yes, What kind of foreign investment does Africa need? Must investors in Africa always be foreigners? Or is there the possibility that the African diaspora could be the investors that Africa seeks? We are going to be addressing some of those questions, and we're also going to be asking as well whether the various African governments are doing enough to market their investment opportunities to the diaspora, to make it attractive enough for the diaspora to invest in Africa. Family, as you can see, we have now been joined by our brother Leader Bandaka, who I gather was having some difficulty logging on, but as you can see, he found a way and he has joined our panel. Let me just introduce our brother Leader Bandaka, and then bring him in. And we're going to go straight into topic because of time. So our brother Leader Bandaka is a spiritual leader of the Al-Kabalan revivalist movement and a nationalist, Pan-Africanist liberation movement. In addition to being a community activist and organizer, for nearly 40 years, he's a proud father of 4 and a grandfather of no less than 10. And all of Brother Leader Bandaka's work is African-centered, specializing in religion and spirituality, education and schooling, African/Black history and culture, African family dynamics and rites of passage as part of his spiritual works. We want to welcome today Leader Bandaka. Welcome, Leader. I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing you. Please, yeah, we're not hearing you. Turn your laptop volume up, please. Turn up the volume on your laptop. Wonderful, wonderful. What a night tonight, Isa. Hey. Leader, can we hear you now? No, we're still not hearing you.
Mbandaka, turn the volume up on your computer, because maybe it's a computer volume.
Are you hearing me okay?
All right, when you log in, when you log in, something come up on your on the thing, it says, allow it to access your microphone. Did you press that?
He's not on mute my end, so
No.
he must be on mute his end.
No, there's something that comes when you log in on Sister. There's something that comes up and it said that allow StreamYard to access your microphone. If you don't press that, you're not gonna come through. So you might have to shut down and come back on again.
Yeah. Leader, I hope you heard that. You might have to wheel and come again. Yes, I think he's heard that. What a night we're having tonight. Hey!
Mr. Shanice.
Yes, my brother.
I think what has transpired tonight, it explains the necessity of what you're speaking about in terms of people coming to invest in Africa. And we have to look at the word investment.
We do.
Yeah, because investment is about you put something in to gain a profit. So
right.
I'm a bit iffy about the investment part of it. I think we need to look about contributing to the development of Africa, which we will benefit from. Whether that's socially, whether that's economically, culturally, and also spiritually. I think that when we're looking at these definitions, we're looking at them through the eyes of a European.
That's right.
Europeans, I mean, that word even traced back to a definition about surrounding a castle to get what's inside of it.
That's right.
You understand what I say? So,
Prophet, I'm on the same wavelength. I even looked up the definition myself and I've got it here. Spot on. Let me just bring it forward for the audience, Prophet, and then I'll bring you straight back in, because I, decided that I needed to look at what they consider investment to be, because we might have our definition and our perception and of an understanding of investment, and we might think it means business, and we might think it means people coming into our land and offering us a service, and in return we share with them some of our resources. But they have a very specific meaning of investment, and this is it says, firstly, the action or process of investing money for profit. Exactly what you said. So they're coming to invest money for profit. Secondly, and remember, when we're talking about them investing money, we're talking about them coming with bits of paper, for real wealth. Okay, so what it means is they're coming with their bits of paper to make a profit, so that they can benefit. Secondly, it means the surrounding of a place by a hostile force in order to besiege or blockade it. And when you look up the word besiege, you're talking military. To surround with armed forces, the army had besieged the castle. I tell you, we're on the same wavelength, Prophet. And secondly, it says it's about besieging basically the royal ministers with petitions. So, this is their interpretation of investment. So when we think, that investment means business, it means development of our infrastructure, it means, the bringing in of foreign skills and resources to help build Mama Africa, they have a very different definition. Let me go back to you, Prophet, and then we'll go over to Leader.
I'll tell you what I'll do, sis. Because Brother Mandaka just come and I'll give way and let him speak. I can come back, so it's not no big thing. Right. Brother Mandaka, come in.
Let's hope we can hear Leader this time. Welcome, Brother Leader Mandaka.
Oh no, it's not coming through.
We're not hearing you. What? Oh, we're really.
It's something to do with the computer. I think what they have to do, they have to shut it all down, thing, and then bring it up again.
Yeah, do a complete refresh. Yeah. Oh, Prophet, even your computer's gone funny now, mine. See you.
No, it's just me move, because where I am is quite warm. Some fresh air. Yeah. Well, I'll continue then, sis.
Hold tight, family. We're going to continue pressing on despite the technical hitches, despite the challenges. Please bear with us. We're going to get through this topic, okay? Right. Because it's a serious thing we need to discuss around here. So, Prophet, you'd identified that we need to be clear about the fact that they have their definition of investment, and whatever we think it is, when it comes to foreigners coming into Africa, we need to be clear about what their definition of investment is. So we've just set out for the family the definition of investment. Over to you, Prophet, and then I'll take it back again.
Yeah, you see, sis, all the communications in terms of global businesses is done through the eyes of Europeans. It's using their language, whether it's French, Dutch, Portuguese, Spanish, English, whatever the case may be, French. And they use these words to tie people up. Most people don't really know the real meaning of investment. Because everything that they do, there's an ulterior motive. You understand? It's to take. Their whole aspect in life is to take as much as they can and give less. It's like when I'm talking about them giving aid. Aid comes with strings attached.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's right.
So we must have words in our own culture to define seeking assistance from other people for us to. I mean, we had something which we once called the barter system.
Yes.
The white man come and cancel that out. You understand what I'm saying to you? We're saying for millenniums in the continent, even when the continent was trading with the Eastern and the Middle East or whatever them call it, the Asiatics, we had a barter system. Me have something you want and you have something with me want. Or me have something where you need and you have something with me want. And we'll trade on that. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
See? But they've come now with their languages. I bet there's no treaty that the white man has on anybody's continent that involves the actual people where they've gone to language, written in their language. Not written in their language. It's written in their language. And so we have to be careful about when we're talking about investment. Our brother Mbandaka is let's see if he go on talk.
Leader.
No.
What is? I'm not hearing you. I can't hear you.
Mbandaka, can you hear me? Right. Did you shut down the computer?
Refresh.
Now what you have to do, you have to uninstall the something and reinstall it, and then it will come up and say allow StreamYard to access your microphone, and you press allow. That's what you have to do. Because I think that's what you ain't done. Because everything else is working. Unfortunately, if we could have do some sign reading and them thing there, you could have, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you could have done that, yeah.
So you know, log out of StreamYard and then log back in again. And when you log back in again, make sure you allow StreamYard to access your microphone on your computer. Alrighty?
Are you using your computer, leader? All right. Have you got a mobile phone there? Try and do it on the mobile phone. Yeah, try to do it on the mobile phone, and I think you'll find it might come through. Yeah.
If you've got WhatsApp, if you've got WhatsApp on your mobile phone, just click the link. Okay, and come back in.
You see, Sister Shanice, the importance of knowing the words. Now, to get to what I wanted to say was the show that you presented today in terms of what we thought investment meant, seen as a global people. I don't think those are the words we need to use. I think the words that we need to use is Africa is Africa or the different African countries doing enough to entice Africans in the diaspora to come home and to contribute to the development of Africa, where they themselves will benefit the country and they will see benefits come to themselves. It's a bit long-winded, but I think that is the language we have to use. Because a lot of us is going back to Africa, and all we want to do is live lives that we couldn't live in the West, in Africa. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't go and live in poverty and all them something there, but we have to remember that we're trying to create and redevelop the future for our children them, our grandchildren them, our grandniece, nephew, and our extended family. You understand? And we mustn't look at wealth through the eyes of a Eurocentric mentality. And that's what we do. We look at wealth through the eyes of a Eurocentric mentality. Big swimming pool, big car and truck, you know, driving up and down, just sit down all day upon beach now, do nothing, just I enjoy life, and other various things that other people want to engage in. That's not about creativity. You understand what I'm saying? We have to remember that Africa, as a great historian, Dr. Chancellor Williams told us, has been fighting a war for 6 millenniums. You understand what I say?
Yes.
We've been fighting We've been fighting the Asiatics, the Hittites. We've been fighting the Hyksos. We've been fighting the Greeks, the Romans, the Persians, the Arabs, yeah, the French, the Dutch, the British, the Yanks, the Spanish, the Portuguese. You know, we've been fighting all these people then for millenniums.
Right.
They've come into Africa, they've changed our spiritual practices. Now, as Africans, we're killing people in the name of Islam, we're killing in the name of Christianity. This is what we're doing. So, you know, they have invested those doctrines to take out the profits of Mama Africa. They have purposely created trouble and strife in Central African Republic, in the Congo. They are responsible for the genocide in Rwanda under the United Nations. They are responsible for it. Although it is Africans that committed, and we can't negate that fact. But they are the ones who's behind it. And we must never let them out. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So now we have these countries, these 54 countries in Africa that was created, in the Berlin Conference in 1884 and 1885, where the European countries carved up Africa amongst themselves. And King Leopold of Belgium got the biggest piece and the richest real estate.
Yes, the Congo.
And we don't need to say what happened down there. People can go and research it for themselves.
Right, right.
So these borders that we fight about, we didn't even create them.
That's right. That's
when
right.
they came to Africa, they came and saw kingdoms and created countries.
Yes,
Out of
yes.
kingdoms.
That's right.
And turned us against it. And let's be honest and true. They were able to expand and invest in the differences and the arguments that we had and expand them.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So what now is those 54 countries doing to embrace those of us who want to come back home to Africa? We as Africans in the diaspora, you know, it's like, especially those of us Africans who leave, parents left the Caribbean and come and live, especially here in Europe. It's like we're in a wilderness. Kind of the Caribbean, them call we foreigner. We got Africa, them call we foreigner. And where we live, them call we foreigner.
For real.
You understand? And we needed visas. I think one of the good things is if you have a Jamaican visa and you go to a certain African country, you don't need. If you have a Jamaican passport or certain Caribbean passport, you don't need a visa to go to certain countries in Africa. But what about us, Tanzania?
Yes, yes.
What about we? You see what I'm saying? So what is the African government doing to attract us to come there to try to assist and develop Mama Africa? Brother Mbandaka, take off your mute and you come in, your brother.
Tendai Mari.
Tendai Mari. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Are your phone you use?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Mwari Mukurukuru.
Wonderful.
God is the greatest above all great. Rumbidzo kuna mwari ye Africa, to the God of Africa be the glory. Give thanks and praises.
So rise up, leader. We are delighted to have you on board now.
Tenai Mwari, it's a tremendous blessing. Can you still hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a tremendous blessing to be on the show, Sister Shanice. Notwithstanding the gremlins that we've been battling with, we have been trying to get in since 1:45 the hour. to the appointed hour. So we do apologize to our viewers and listeners most emphatically. But we are in a fight against a very insidious and sinister beast. So we don't know what kind of forces are at play. We must never rule out the inimical efforts of the oppressor. But it's good to be here.
Yes. It's great to have you here as well, leader Tendai Mwari. You know, we want to hear different views and opinions on this very important topic that we are discussing today. We've already started the discussion. We've gone as far as actually defining, well, actually looking at what how the Oxford Dictionary defines investment. And it's not, you know, the language that we would expect to have heard in relation to investment. And, you know, Prophet Maduti started addressing the question about whether or not the African governments could actually do more to encourage and inspire the diaspora to invest in Africa, because usually when the African continent talks about foreign investors, they're not thinking about the diaspora. But if you was to actually look at the amount that the diaspora actually contributes through remittances towards the development of Africa, it's far greater than the amount that they receive from the West in aid. In fact, the West, you know, having conferences to make decisions about how they could use the money that we are investing in Africa more effectively. And I heard today from a brother in Tanzania the story of two cases where Americans had their bank accounts frozen to stop them investing the money that they'd sold up and had in the bank, to invest in Tanzania. So you can see that, you know, on the one hand, where we are investing, they're looking at the billions that we're investing to decide on how they can use that more effectively. And when we come over as individuals, they are now making moves through the bank to stop us from investing on an individual level. So you can see the games that are at play here. The West recognizes the potential for diaspora investment, but do the African governments, and are they doing enough, you know, to attract diaspora investment? What say you, Leader Bendaka?
Tendai Mwari, first of all, my beloved sister, this is such an important subject matter that you have raised up this evening, and given the insightful person that you are, the forward-looking, the deep-thinking person that you are, you recognize that it's a subject of such gravity and such magnitude that it will require more than one broadcast to even scratch the surface, as it were. So that even when we do part two,
excuse me a minute, brother Mbandaka. One second, Sister Shanice, there's a feedback coming. So every time Brother Mbandaka is talking, the feedback, I think, is at your end. If you put yourself on mute while he's speaking, then maybe we can hear him clearly and there's no feedback. Go on, beloved.
Tendai Mwari. Yes, where was I? Yes.
You're talking about the importance of the subject and everything.
Of the subject matter. So I suspect that even when we have completed part two, we'll still only have scratched the surface. I see that we have already unearthed the insidious, archaic meaning, which is in effect the original meaning of the word investment, which is to surround a place by hostile forces, yes, in order to besiege that place, or blockade that place. It's interesting that that becomes the word that now means to put in or to render sums of money into some kind of financial scheme in order to get a return on your profit. Even that in itself, that definition in itself, is one that requires much scrutiny when we talk about foreign investors, and in particular, our historical oppressors investing in our economies. We must also, brothers and sisters, because when we talk about investment, we are in the realm of economics. And one aspect of economics is of course trade. But we must remember, beloved brothers and sisters, that in their original engagement with us in regards to the enslavement of our ancestors, that was trade. They called it trade. Let's remember that. They call that trade. In fact, they call it the slave trade. To them, it was trading, even though anyone with a moral compass will know that you can't trade in human beings. But to them, it was okay to call it a trade. But that's how trading originated with our relationship with these people. We must remember that we were the first raw materials that they removed from the African continent en masse. They had reduced us to commodities. They had commodified and objectified us, reduced us to objects and commodities for their own enrichment, for their own opulence. And we had to die for them to live. We had to be rendered impoverished for them to be enriched. And those dialectics still governs our relationship with them to this day. We have a saying back home, we're gone by the morning, can't come good evening. Some of us believe that our relationship with Europeans is redeemable. But how can we redeem a history of such human brutality that the world had never seen before? The level of wickedness and evil that has been meted out on African people by these purveyors of evil is unprecedented. And there is no way that any good, no way that any good has ever come out of it or will ever come out of it. So those are my opening remarks, if I may, on this subject matter. We are on very, very dodgy grounds as African people if we believe that through engaging in economic intercourse with our historical oppressors, exploiters, colonizers, that we will ever be able to forge an economic system that will indeed empower us and will indeed complement our will and our desire to be a free and self-determining people, for us to reclaim our sovereignty, for us to become masters of our own destiny ever again. It will not be done. It will not be accomplished through any kind of intercourse, whether economic, social, religious, with these people. We have to cut our ties with them. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, rise up, brother leader, for those opening remarks that makes us realize the reality of the situation that we're faced with. It's been about 60 years, 50 plus, almost 60 years since independence for some countries. And, you know, I don't know if you know, but we were expecting two brothers from the continent to be joining us on our stream today. But because of the poor infrastructure, the poor communications infrastructure within their countries, they are unable to communicate with us online today. And this is, you know, part of the legacy of so-called investment from European companies who have the monopoly over telecommunication systems on the continent. And this is, you know, the poor quality of the work that we're actually experiencing today. Let me, within the contents of what you said, and then I'll bring in Prophet Maduti, actually bring in what Kwame Nkrumah had to say about neocolonialism. Kwame Nkrumah explained it in quite some detail in a book that he'd written, and this is what he said about the West. He said, especially the United States, and I would add also the UK, was responding to the success. So Nkrumah explains in great detail how the West, and especially the United States, was responding to the success of national liberation movements, such as the one led by Ghana, by shifting its tactics from colonialism to neocolonialism. And he says, without a qualm, it dispenses with its flag. So, you know, it willingly did away with the British flag and the French flag, etc., and claims that it's given independence to its former subjects to be followed by aid for their development. Under the cover of such phases, however, it devises innumerable ways to accomplish its objectives formerly achieved by naked colonialism. So even back then, 50 plus years ago, Kwame Nkrumah recognized that colonialism, the awful situation that you've just outlined there, Brother Leader Bandaka, didn't actually go away. It was replaced with neocolonialism. So basically, they've come up with numerous ingenious ways of actually maintaining the status quo, being the exploitation of us as a people, being the exploitation of our minerals and our resources. And that is what has been happening over the last 50 plus years. What say you, Prophet Maduti?
I'm going to give way to Brother Leader Mbandaka again, because he just come on in. He didn't get much time to go in his flow. Once he land on that one, I will come back on that. I think it's only fair we give the brother opportunity to just express a bit more.
Rise up, Prophet. Thank you for giving way to Leader. Come back in, please, Leader Bandaka. Please take yourself off mute.
You're on mute. Take it off on mute.
Yeah, okay. See, I'm still adjusting to the technological age, so bear with me, beloved brothers and sisters. Your analysis is so correct, Sister Shanice. You know, for as long as we've been under the cush at the hands of these people, they have one interest and one interest alone in Africa and African people. There is an abundance, not just 50 years, but at the very least, in terms of this present dispensation of the cycle of time that we're in, there has been 500 years of what we call the Ma'afa, which is the colossal destruction of African humanity. And it operates on every single level. It encompasses the 360 degrees of our experiential realities at the hands of these people. So it's economic, it is political, it is military, it is psychological, it is emotional, it is social, it is scientific, it is technological, it is health, it concerns health. There, in every aspect of our existence. You see, there's a definition of war, which is that war is waged upon a people when their territory is invaded. Not only has our physical territory been invaded, our emotional, our mental, our psychological, our spiritual territory, our economic territory, in every aspect we have been invaded, and that invasion continues to this very day. Papa Garvey has a expression. It goes like this: God made man Lord of creation, gave them possession and ownership of the world, and you have been so darn lazy that you have allowed the other fellow to run away with the whole world, and now he's bluffing you and telling you that the world belongs to him and that you have no part in it. That is the reality. Papa Garvey was pronouncing this in the 1920s and the 19-teens and the 1930s up until 1940, 10th of June, when he gave up the ghost, as it were. Papa Garvey's been pronouncing this. We have allowed the other fellow, we have allowed the oppressor to run away with the whole world. And now he's bluffing us and telling us that the world, so he uses his terminologies like investment and economics and growth and development. He uses all of these terms, and gross national product and, you know, PPP and all kinds of, you know, all kind of rubbish. And we internalize all of this without putting it into its proper context. Let me just say very quickly, you asked about the present leadership. I can't remember the question, the wording of the question you asked me earlier on, sis. But you asked about the present leadership and their role and their responsibility. And we have a big problem there. We have a massive problem with the crop of leadership. Some people might say the crap of leadership that we have on the African continent. And this is not to disrespect anyone. It is to say that the kind of leadership we have on the African continent today is not conducive to the empowerment of African people, to the liberation of African people, and to the restoration of sovereignty to African people. Because that leadership is born out of a politics that is based upon domination from Europe and America. That leadership is born out of a history where progressive liberation leaders who were scrupulous and committed to the liberation of our people were either assassinated or exiled or removed in some way, shape, or form. And the platform was set for a brand of leadership that would be gatekeepers for European imperialism, puppets who function as talking heads of European ventriloquism. That's the reality. And when we get the opportunity, I'd like to break that down a little bit more, but I don't want to take up too much time because I know we've lost a lot of time in the program. But we have a big problem. Let me state that here and now. We have a big problem with the nature of the politics of the African continent and the type of leadership that we have. And all economics occurs within the context of nation building, which is the political system. If we don't get the political system right, then the economics is going to be skewed. Let's be clear about that, brothers and sisters. And too often we discuss economics in a vacuum because we're not discussing it within the context of the neo-colonial political system. And as Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah says, neocolonialism is the last stage of imperialism. We now have globalization to contend with, but we understand what the Osagyefo meant when he said those words. Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari, leader Bandaka. Prophet, do you want to come in here or shall I go ahead?
Brother Mundaka quite eloquently broke down a lot of those things, and I just want to pick up on the part where we speak about with your feet in the back, Sister Shanice again. Yeah, I just want to pick up on the part where you talk about the leadership and the politics, because all too often the politics that is being used in Africa is not African politics. It is European politics. Europeans' definition of how you're supposed to trade and look after your people and these kind of things. So this is what leads to the disruption of wealth being distributed to the masses. We've been having problems trying to connect on this apparatus. This apparatus, that the actual technological know-how of it was actually created by Africans. But those Africans do not live in Africa and did not create it with Africa in mind. And so when they invaded and assassinated Colonel Gaddafi, it was primarily France that wanted to get rid of him because of what he was trying to do in sideline the French from making money and to put a satellite up so you didn't have to use the Franco countries like Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, you know, and Djibouti and all them one who speak Cameroon who speak French and all them thing there. They wouldn't have to piggy bank on the French system. This annoyed the French because it was losing them about half a billion a year. You understand me? I said, and that was very upsetting for them. So one of the things that we have to do, we have to be sending rockets to space and putting up our own satellites. This is why there's a problem with the community. We can't get our other two brothers who's on the continent to come in. Because what? Because our we're depending on somebody else's feed. You understand me? I said to you. So when somebody's feeding you, they can dictate what you do. When Mao Zedong took over China, the first thing he do, lock off China. You know the first thing he do? He kill off all the traitor Chinese them. And the second thing he do, he concentrated on feeding himself. Chinese must be able to depend on feeding themselves. So maybe that's why them name everything, bat, rat, cat, dog, and all them something there. But what it was so that them didn't have to depend on anybody to feed them. And then he, simultaneously doing all of those things, he worked on his military. Because make no beans about this. If you study our history, one of our glorious empires was the ancient Cometian empires. Look at the time when those empires flourished. Is when their armies were strong. When they could defend what they have. I said this last week. If we are not capable of defending ourselves, these devils will come forward. And they will, and I think we need to break down what neocolonialism is as well. Because neocolonialism is people that look like us on this platform doing the works of the people them that was there prior that did not look like us. And so they work not for the benefit of Tanzania. Well, Magafuli is working for the benefit of Tanzania, but they don't work for the benefit of the other African countries. They work for the benefit of the people them that invaded there, occupied it, and created turmoil within those lands. And they were only able to create those turmoil because they had other Africans helping them. You understand what I'm saying to you? And this is very, very important. The second thing is this. Anytime you find an African leader in Africa, a chat like a white boy, oh yes, and all them something there. You have to watch them man there. You understand? Because quite clearly, you're not talking to your people. Because your people don't talk like that. You understand me? I say, could you imagine in Parliament, yeah, that Boring Johnson stands up and starts saying, Timajilaro, Kutu Kutu, Olodumare, Ja, Jakim. Could you imagine him saying that to the English Parliament? No, never. You understand? But we got African people. And
can I just interject a quick point in here?
Yeah, no problem.
Let us not forget when our beloved brother Bernie Grant entered the British Parliament. Okay. Well, go ahead with it then, my brother.
No, go on, finish. Yeah, just finish it.
Entered the British Parliament for the first time after winning the election as MP, Member of Parliament for Tottenham. And his first entry into the Parliament, he wore traditional garment, full agbada, right? 4P. Agbada with the buba and the shokoto and his fila, traditional garment, yeah? Ashoke, rich Ashoke, right? This is woven material from Nigeria, rich Ashoke. And there was consternation. Members of Parliament started to leak out. One member of Parliament, I can't remember his name, said if he's coming into Parliament, he should dress properly. Right? Don't forget that. It was all over the newspaper. Right? So they saw that as cultural war, a declaration of war. Just a piece of cloth the man have on, but it's African cloth. It's not suit and tie. And that was a declaration of war. Sorry, my brother. Go ahead. 10 more.
Yeah, a beautiful contribution, my brother. You know, I look at, apart from the Nigerian presidents, the various Nigerian presidents, they all wear their traditional outfit, whether they're Hausa, whether Yoruba, whether them from the eastern region, Igbo, or any of the other groups, whichever one who's in power, they will wear their traditional outfit. You understand me I say? And even that shows that you're giving them power over you psychologically. Because you're showing them that their style of their cultural presentation for professional or communication business is far superior than yours. You understand what I said? So just like what you said earlier, Brother Mandaka, in terms of a cultural war, an economical war, a spiritual war, yeah, an Africational war. Even in that, they have dominated those platforms. And so when we talk about this whole investment thing, they have surrounded our minds. They have surrounded our territories, and they've besieged us to the point now we are mimicking them even better than themselves. Cultural genocide. That's what we're engaging in. Sister Shanice.
Rise up, prophets. And Leader Bandaka, you have both touched on so much there. Just going to comment on the tail ends of what you said, Leader, about the comments and the criticism of our legendary Bernie Grant when he went into the House of Parliament in his African attire, and how critical they were. Okay, so what does that say? It says that they all know the importance of upholding what they consider to be their culture, their cultural dress. And you're not going to be coming into our parliament in any African gowns. So what message should that be sending to the African leaders when they go dressed, go in their parliament, you know, wearing somebody else's clothes? So much that was covered there. I just want to bring in the fact that, as we know, the UKKK is no longer part of the European Union. Yeah, they're in their post-Brexit transitional stage at the moment. And basically, they've come out of Europe because they've obviously decided that they can do bad all by themselves. Yeah, and as part of the warm-up to them exiting Brexit, they were smooching again with their former colonies. And we started hearing about the old Commonwealth coming back again, and we saw them wheeling out the Queen and other members of her family to entertain the former colonial countries, the former Commonwealth countries, the ones that they used to rule when it was their heyday and the sun never went down, on Britain. And we saw that they were looking to get back into business and partnership arrangements with new deals with their former colonizers and former colonies, rather. And I just want to bring it back to the topic for discussion regarding investment and how they actually disguise what they call investment in Africa, but which, when you look at the evidence, could appear to be more of colonial exploitation of Africa's minerals and resources, as they used to do back in the day. And as Kwame Nkrumah was saying as well, in terms of their continued neocolonialism. So we see that from their so-called investments over the last 50, 60 years, or even 400 years, because very little has changed since then, how those in the West are living in luxury and opulence compared to the majority of our people on the continent, who to a large extent are still languishing in poverty, despite the wealth that the West is actually extracting from their country. And let me give, for example, Kenya, okay? Because there's an article, and I want to rise up Brother Kwame for sending me this. It was looking at the list of the 10 biggest companies in Kenya, and at least 5 of the 10 that were listed were actually British companies. Okay, now with that in mind, there was an article quite recently as well that was talking about a post-Brexit deal that the UK was trying to broker with Kenya. And basically, they were seeking to get a 25-year tax-free entry Kenya pact, a quarter of a century for 25 years into the next generation. Yeah, they were trying to broker a deal where they would pay no tax on their duties. Let me quickly just try and find that article, because I want to just highlight the sort of deals that are actually going on, and it's all part of of the UK now trying to establish new deals with their former colonies. Yeah, so this is empire building all over again, and they're going in for the kill. So here we have an article. Let me scroll down. No, not that one. Here it is, 26th of February. Kenyan MPs refuse to sign Kenya-UK trade pact. Wow. Why? Because they were accusing officials of actually trying to sneak some documents, some appendices to the original document that had already been tabled. Yeah, there were these extra annexes to the report that they were sneaking in just before the decision was about to be made regarding this particular deal. It said the deal between the two countries provides full duty-free and quota-free market conditions for goods originating from the East African Community partner states into the market of the UK. So for those who don't actually know or realize that they're talking about largely the British companies in Kenya, getting duty-free and also quota-free market access for goods out of Kenya. You might think that it's Kenyan businesses that are going to be profiting, but these are British companies, you know, and also in the reverse as well, because there's another article that was saying MPs refuse to ratify trade pact between Kenya and the UK. And I want to rise up those MPs that actually stood up and spoke out and said, hang on a minute, no, we're not going to accept this. You know, it says here, 26th of February, members of parliament have refused to ratify Kenya's trade pact with the UK, accusing unknown officials of sneaking in documents that had not been tabled in parliament. Apparently, the Kenyan lawmakers have got to rise up, the lawmakers, for this, for being organized and for being on the ball, said that until they are fully aware of the details of the economic partnership agreement, hear that word? Partnership agreement. There's no partnership here if they're going to be, you know, they come in on the basis that, you know, they're going to be paying taxes, they're going to be contributing towards the economy, when clearly what's happening here, they're trying to avoid paying duty and avoid paying taxes for 25 years, a quarter of a century. But the lawmakers said no, you know, they're not prepared to ratify that agreement. And in fact, you know, they said that they were going to defer the debate, and they were very critical of the fact that they were trying to sneak in without authorization, you know, by the speaker, these extra documents. Okay, and if this is the sort of way that some of these government officials are behaving when it comes to authorizing documents, sneaking in documents that hadn't been ratified, that hadn't been agreed, this could potentially have meant that those UK businesses pay no duty for 25 years. Prophet Maduti, let me go over to you. Any comments on that situation in Kenya?
One of the things that you missed out in the reports is not only for things that they're exporting, it's things that they're importing.
Mm-hmm.
So any goods that they're importing into Kenya, them don't want to pay no tax on it.
That's
so
right.
Everything that they're getting is all profit.
Right.
But I would put it to the panel that they've been doing that for years.
That's right.
They've been doing that for years. But what they want to do is make it official now, because you know things have changed. You know, people might feel so we there are beat down our African governments, you know. But we know that there are members in the government that are not happy with what's going on. It's just that them is not necessarily the president of the country, but the opposition, even members in their own parliament, are not happy with certain things. So they know that, and they're clamping down on certain nefarious activities. So what you find out when the Europeans sit down, you know what them do? They say we need to make this official.
Mm-hmm.
We know for sure that many of the minerals that leave Africa, no European country pay for them. Them don't pay for them. Them get them for free. We know that some years ago, there was an issue in Nigeria with Shell Company, in that they're extracting oil, but they're not doing the necessary safety things, health and safety, because it's Africa. Them just make the waste just going at the river them and all them things there. So we know this is how they behave. Any people that is running a country and you sick and you have to leave your country to go to another country for heal you don't deserve to be a prime minister or president. Because one of the first infrastructures you should have is your health infrastructure and your communications and your transport and your defense. You understand? They don't pay for nothing. They never have. Where you think Britain I get all this money for pay 300 billion for furlough and all them something? Where you think and the country shut down and there's no e-commerce going on? Where you think the money I come from? Where you think all of that wealth is coming from? That ain't from no taxes people is paying here. I can tell you that for nothing. You understand me? I say they don't generate that amount of fund because you got the same companies here in Britain, these big companies, that them not paying no tax either. It's only poor people to pay a tax, you know. Yeah, the affluent don't pay a tax. It's just the poor ordinary man and woman who dip on the road. Anyway, you're there in a planet, and them a pay the tax. You see me? I say. So they've never don't make anytime here them a come out, them a try create a legislation for that. What they're trying to do is, as the report said, they're trying to ratify and legitimize it now, because now it's getting a bit sticky. Because the young people in Africa ain't having it.
For real.
That's right.
Rise up the next generation.
Just like what King Nimikongo said. They lend us money, what they take from us. So the Mongols lend us back our own wealth.
That's right. In fact, you know, it's even worse than that as well. So not only are they the controllers and the owners of the largest industries and corporations in Africa, and you know, even if we just look at Kenya in particular, and not only are they trying not to pay any duties or any taxes on the goods that come out of Africa, but in addition to that, as we know, they get the raw materials way below the market value as well, which is why the salaries, etc., is just so low. So there's exploitation going in terms of the cost that they're getting the minerals and raw materials at. They're exploiting again by evading the taxes on the duties, etc. on the way out. It comes back in as finished goods, as you say, in profit, and on the way in again, they don't want to pay any taxes. So, for example, they might get Kenyan tea that they will export free, and then they want to import it as a labeled British tea, and then have it on the supermarkets, you know, across Kenya at a very high markup as well. But then we've got a situation where, for example, in this report, this UN study report was talking about the illicit money flows from Africa, nearly 89 billion US dollars. And you know, that's an underestimation as well. They're saying that is lost to Africa on an annual basis in illicit financial flows through tax evasion and theft. So like you said, this has been going on for a long time, and them done more, harder things set already. So you're right, I think, and I agree, they're trying to legitimize what they have been doing for a long time, evading taxes. So because reports like this have come out actually exposing the extent to which they're actually evading paying taxes, what they now want to do is to legitimize not having to pay the taxes. But because they knew that it couldn't be argued and agreed up front, they tried to sneak it in some appendices to a report that was about to be approved in the Kenyan parliament. But because of some BDI lawmakers and MPs who said, hang on a minute, we haven't seen these documents. What are these extra appendices here? And were brave enough to stand up and speak out and have those documents pulled out, and then demand that it actually be, that they do not approve it until they've had time to look it over, because as they say, the devil is in the detail. Because of that move, and we have to big them up for that move, because they could have been intimidated to stay quiet, but they were not. They spoke up and spoke out. And as a result now, hopefully, they're going to come to an arrangement that's going to be a win-win situation, and is going to put the taxes into Kenya where it needs to be going so that the people can actually benefit from those corporations and organizations that are taking the minerals and resources out of their country. Now, Prophet, I can see you want to come here. Jump in.
Just a quick thing. There's a key thing that you said there in that statement. Unknown officials trying to sneak it in. Unknown officials. Who are these unknown officials?
I think so.
And who they look like?
But they're just not saying.
Brother Mbindaka. Brother Mbindaka.
Rise up, Prophet. Leader Bandaka. Over to you, my brother, for your comments and thoughts on what's been shared so far. Take yourself off mute, please.
Mute.
Then I'm worried. Keep guiding me along, yeah? Let me approach it from this angle. You mentioned the term partnership earlier on, the Shanice, yeah? And it's one of their buzzwords, and one that we must be very wary of. But we have a definition for partnership, you know. They've already given us a definition for partnership. And it came out of the mouth of a satanic character who was once prime minister of what they called Southern Rhodesia at the time. And he was advocating that the Western world or the European world should now engage in partnership with Africa. Yeah, where we have to change our approach and engage in partnership. And when they ask him, what does he mean by partnership? He says, what I mean is like the partnership between a horse and its rider. No prizes for guessing who the horse is and who the rider is in that analogy. So I just want to burn that image into the head, into the minds of every African viewing this program this evening. And every time you hear the word partnership between Europeans and Africans, just visualize, just bring to mind the image of a horse and a rider, because that is exactly what they mean. And we must also remind ourselves that a former French president by the name of Jacques Chirac did once say that without Africa, France will have no history in the 21st century. In 1957, he said these words. Then there's another former French president, Jacques Chirac. Sorry, the first French president was François Mitterrand. The second French president I'm quoting now is Jacques Chirac. He said, without Africa, France will slide down into the rank of a third world power. Yes? You don't think the British realized that Britain would suffer the same fate without Africa? And if Africa is in control of itself, its land, its resources, the minds, the ingenuity, the skills of its people, all channeled toward the empowerment of African people, investing in African genius, investing in African scientific genius, technological genius, in African economic genius, etc., etc. Where would Britain be? Where would America be? As I have always say, whoever controls Africa rules the world. This is a fundamental principle, a governing principle of global geopolitics. We must understand this as Africans. whoever controls Africa rules the world. This is why America is the most powerful nation in the world today, because America controls Africa. It has its military boots on African soil. In 35, no less than 35 African nations under the auspices of Africa. What are they doing there? They are there to protect American interests. The smoke screen that they use is to fight terrorism or peacekeeping. But what an army is designed to do is to defend militarily the interests of the nation to which that army belongs. That is its duty, its job, by any means necessary, to defend the interests of the nation to which it belongs. Now, we talked about the 89 billion that is being siphoned from the African economy. But let us put into the picture the 500 billion, that's $500 billion, that France fleeces every year. So every 2 years, that's £1 billion that France is fleecing from 14 African so-called Francophone nations. These are the nations that France had tied up in a pact when our people were vying for independence. France coerced or cajoled these so-called Francophone African nations to sign a colonization continuation pact, whereby they would submit 65 or 60, somewhere between 65 and 85% of their foreign reserves would be lodged into the French treasury. In addition to that, Francophone countries, so-called, in Africa, must continue to pay a fee to France, a reparation fee to France, for the benefits of colonization. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? They must agree that French troops must maintain bases in these countries, that the French government must have first refusal on the natural resources in these countries. I mean, it beggars belief.
But Mbandaka, can I interject there?
Go ahead.
Just to add to what you said, also, they have to pay interest on borrowing their own money.
Absolutely.
They have to pay interest on borrowing their own money. So them can't even get their money. They have to borrow it and then pay interest on borrowing their own money. This is madness.
It's crazy. And borrowing don't mean you pick up the phone and say, well, can I borrow a couple of million, please? It means you have to apply. You have to apply, and you have to be means tested. And the French treasury has to agree that you can borrow your own money on which you have to pay interest. It's crazy. That we're not talking about 50 years ago now.
We're talking about now.
We're talking about now.
No.
And any African leader who flex like them don't even really want more of this thing. Like Laurent Gbagbo of Cote d'Ivoire, otherwise known as Ivory Coast. Yeah? Had a little chat with our brethren, Robert Mugabe, Baba Robert Mugabe. And he decided, so, well, about time we stop make the French people him a dominate way, right? And all him do is him start to say some things to the to France, what France never want to hear, right? That's why they toppled him. That's why he was toppled, because he was actually agitating against the continued domination and exploitation of these so-called Francophone countries by France. That was the reason why he was toppled, no other reason. And they put in his place, what's this guy, Ouattara, Lansana Ouattara. They put him in his place. This man.
Manangagwa.
No, that's the Zimbabwean president.
That's Zimbabwe.
Mnangagwa.
My apologies.
No. I'm talking about Ivory Coast.
Okay.
When Gbagbo was toppled, there was an election, and there was a dispute about the election. The Constitutional Council ruled in Gbagbo's favor, but Ouattara, who is French protege, was digging his heels in with French backing, and then France sent troops in to overthrow the president, even though the African Union voted against this invasion. They still invaded the country, and the man was, they went to the man's house, went in the man's and filmed him in his underwears, took him out of his house in his underwears. Every time I think about the thing, man, it burns a hole in my heart, man.
Like to humiliate.
It burns to the marrow. This is the humiliation of every single African on the planet. And they did it and got away with it. Right? They did it and got away with it. Right? And it's an old lackey that they put in his place, who was an understudy to Yufwe Bwani, who was their boy, who was president of Ivory Coast for some 30 odd years before he died. Yeah, that spent 300 million pounds in creating a what you call it, a Christian cathedral.
Yeah.
300 billion. No, it may have been million. 300 million. I think it's the biggest church in the world, if I'm not mistaken. All right, it's his understudy, right? Ouattara. That's their man, France's man. That's what that was all about, right? And if you look at the history, of Francophone Africa, any president who dare to flex in the wrong direction, they either murder him or they topple him, they exile him in some way, shape, or form. That is the reality of the African continent as we speak today. I'm happy to say more about that next week. Thomas Sankara. And the worst thing about it is that oftentimes the people who foreground the vicious, treacherous overthrowing of these leaders, as in the case of Conte. Not Conte. Conte was Compaoré, Blaise Compaoré. He was Thomas Sankara right-hand man. He was Thomas Sankara brother, not by the same mother and father.
But we know,
that they had a history together.
It was the same thing with Patrice Lumumba. Same thing.
Exactly. In fact, they were so close. They were brothers. They used to sleep in each other's home, eat out of the same pot. When he led the assassination of his brother, the parents of Sankara sent a message to him asking him to come and see them. This is a man who in his young days used to live more or less live in a Sankara parents' house.
Yeah.
Right? The father even said to him, we are willing to forgive you. Just come and tell us the truth. Tell us what happened. You are our son. You are our son. Come and speak to us. Tell us what happened. Because we want to open our hearts to you. And he never went and spoke. But he was president for 27 years.
Yeah,
like Mobutu. Mobutu, again. Sorry?
You couldn't face them.
No. It's like Mobutu. Mobutu also stood by Patrice Lumumba and betrayed Patrice Lumumba. And he got 32 years in the presidency because France backed him and America backed him. This is the reality of the African continent, and it's still going on today.
And I know it's 2059, 2159. This is their investment.
That's investment. That's their investment. Africa is under siege. Baba John Henry Clark used to always say that, that Africa is under siege. We have to understand this. Go ahead, sis.
We got off to a late start today. If it's okay with the panel members, I suggest that, I'd like to suggest we continue for a further 30 minutes. Are you okay with that, Prophet Maduti? And Leader Bandaka?
Prophet Bandaka is all right with it.
Tendai Mwari, I'm here to serve, my sister.
Thank you so much, because we did have a very late start, and we're just all learning so much from the discussion that we're having. I certainly am, and I'm sure members in the chat are too. And I haven't even been able to bring in as yet any of their comments. But family who are in the audience, if you would like to pose any questions concerning the discussion that we're having, please feel free to do so, and I will bring in some of your questions. I just want to, thank you both, for just reminding us really of, the dangers, really, you could say, that those leaders of ours who have tried to serve us, have found themselves in, and of course highlighting that it's ones and ones like ourselves, clearly with the hand of Wazungus behind them, who have been the traitors from within, and they will try and take, they will approach the person closest to the leaders as well, which is why, our leaders have got to have strong army, strong protection around them, people who they can trust, inner circles and outer circles and outer circles, because, the enemy will be relentless in trying to remove any leader who is seen to be serving our interests as opposed to their interests. And they so need, the resources of Africa, because as you said, without it, they will just fall into insignificance. I mean, I've got here, for example, information about a meeting that was held. It was a UK International Trade Secretary meeting. And he apparently delivered a high-profile speech in London. This was back in 2018, so the UK was still part of Brexit at this time, but they were seeking to leave the EU. And it says here that the speech was about extolling his vision of global Britain. Okay, so they were looking forward to going global. They saw themselves at the time as just being maybe part of Europe, but they wanted the global stage. That's what the UK wants, okay? And they saw that they could actually become global if they were trading with their partners, so-called partners around the world. So it said trading links around the world. He said we could do well. Yeah, but we have to, he said, beware of the sensitivities of the Commonwealth countries who don't want to become Britain's post-Brexit crutch. Okay, so they know and knew back then that they would need the colonies in order to get through Brexit, because Britain is already bankrupt, Britain is already in recession. Okay, but they don't care. But this system that they have is really about, you know, providing more than enough for the elite. Even some of their own people actually suffer. But anyway, this minister, who was close to the organization of the event, who didn't want to be named, said that there had been concerted efforts to make sure that the event didn't look like Empire 2000, because after previous criticisms that Britain's post-Brexit Commonwealth trade push had colonial connotations. So they recognize the sensitivities around, you know, this new relationship that they were going to be forging with their former colonies. Okay, so we have the situation where, as you know, so eloquently laid out for us at the beginning of your presentation, Leader Bandaka, of the history, the colonial history that we have, and the ma'afa that we suffered at the hands of these tyrannous people. Okay, and here they are now again. Not only are they knocking at Africa's door, but they're sitting around the table claiming to want to work in partnership. And here with the example of Kenya, which is a very recent example, we see that they're trying to legitimize not having to pay any taxes, any duties, and to therefore not give back to the people of Kenya. Let me hear what some of the people in the chat have got to say. Just pull this one up. Rise up, Abina, for the contributions that you've been making in the chat. This one says, UK, they just talk a good talk, but it's colonialism in a new disguise. If Africa and the Africans are not careful, over to you, Leader Bandaka, in response to that comment there. UK talks a good talk, but it's colonialism, a new disguise. And if Africa are not careful, we could probably find ourselves being recolonized. What say you, Leader Bandaka?
Well, you know, the nature of a predator is to prey. Is to prey on its victim. It's in its nature. Yeah, it's in its nature. And I don't think the nature of the beast has changed. I see no evidence that the nature of the beast has changed in 500 years. You know, the information that we're rolling out in the program this evening, is the evidence that we're talking about. They have never changed. And Africa is bleeding. Africa is bleeding because somehow Africa continue to trust and to believe that it's in the nature of the beast to change. You know, we made reference to the Osajaput, Kwame Nkrumah, and there in his legacy lies the answer to what model of economic development Africa should be engaged in. And let us remind ourselves that he himself was a professed disciple of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Because the Osajaput said, I read Marx, Engels, Lenin, Hegel, Mazzini, and he named a few others. But he said of all the books he read, nothing fired his enthusiasm as when he read Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Page 37 of the autobiography of Osajaput Kwame Nkrumah. Right? Let me ever buy the book. Turn to page 37 before you read anything else and look for that quotation. All right? I promise you it's there. And so we have to understand that in the legacy of Papa Garvey is the black print for our liberation on any level, on the political level, on the economic level, on the spiritual level, on the cultural level, on every level. The black print for our liberation is there in the legacy of Papa Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And then we have in the legacy of Osajaput Kwame Nkrumah, Remember the name Osajifo means redeemer. And we're talking about redeeming the African continent, the African economy, African political power, right? That is the title that the people of Ghana gave him, Osajifo. Yeah? Because he was determined to end imperialism, European imperialism on the African continent. He was determined, brothers and sisters, to transform the African continent into the #1 superpower within a generation. That was his plan. Few of us have studied the Osajifo and his program. What he sought to do was to operationalize the legacy, the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He was putting it in practice. Papa Garvey tried to transfer his headquarters to Liberia. He had a comprehensive program in place to industrialize Liberia. This was in the 1920s. In 1924, the UNIA-ACL, having sent delegates to Liberia to discuss plans with the government of Liberia in terms of how the diaspora through the UNIA could feed into a vision of economic empowerment in Liberia and have established Liberia as the beacon light for the rest of the African continent. That was sabotage. That was sabotage. And another African that we give praise to was central to that. I'm going to shock some people who are listening now. I'm going to shock some people. The person that the American government used to sabotage the Liberian project, as it was known, was W.E.B. Du Bois. Believe it or not, beloved. It was W.E.B. Du Bois. Yes. The UNIA-ACL also had a program called the Program for the Redemption of Africa. A program for the redemption of Africa. That was a $2 million program. So the UNIA had started a fundraising drive, a fundraising venture to raise £2 million for the redemption of the African continent. And in addition to that, there was a Liberian project for which they had sent $50,000 worth of industrial and agricultural and technical equipment to the country in 1924.
Look at that.
1924, Papa Garvey was made practical moves to industrialize the African continent and was sabotaged. And the Osajifo tried to pick up that program in the 1950s, coming on into the 1960s, and he was also sabotaged. And to this very day, we're still talking about industrializing the African continent. We have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Now we're hearing about that program. Yeah, and yes, part of the agenda is the industrialization. They're talking about industrializing the African continent. Still, we're talking about industrializing the African continent, but we have to be very, very careful that the African Continental Free Trade Area is not hijacked by globalization, because I see the forces of globalization involved here. Sorry, my sister.
Rise up, my brother. Absolutely agree with you, and I'm glad you've touched on that actually, because I did want to ask that as a question of the panel. To what extent do you actually see these individual, Africa, UK, Kenya, UK, Ghana, UK, Nigeria, to what extent do you see these individual trade deals UK African trade deals that they're going around like a roadshow Africa and trying to do undermine, you know, the overarching African free trade agreement that Africa is trying to put in place, so that, you know, it can create its own 1.2 billion people market and begin to trade more amongst each other, with each other, you know, because on the one hand, we see Africa trying to work together, and then there are all these big holes where, you know, Europe and China are coming in and still continuing to bleed Africa. What do you think the impact of these individual trade agreements is likely to have, Prophet Maduti, to you know, the main African free trade agreement that Africa is trying to unite and come together to put in place? And then we'll go over to Leader for the same question.
You see, Sister Shanice, Dr. Ben told us that you must first learn everything about your enemy. When you know your enemy,
we're at war.
Yeah, you can predict their moves.
Yeah.
I said, the question you spoke about earlier about enticing Africans in the diaspora to come home and contribute to the development of Mama Africa. There's two set of people who don't want us there. The first set of people is definitely the colonial
You want to mute your mic,
invaders.
Sister Shanice? Sorry, brother, quickly. You want to mute your mic against this?
Yeah. The first set of people is the colonial invaders. And the second set of people is the people that's working with them. They can only execute what they're doing as long as they've got somebody that looks like us that is willing to betray the African people. And when I spoke last week, I said, and I will say it again, people like President Magufuli have to be very careful of the people around him, because he has been targeted by the West. And so him have to watch all him wanna blow na woman. May I tell you the truth? It's just a figure of speech.
We have to be careful though.
Yeah, it's a figure of speech, but you know what I'm talking about. They will go to any lengths to destabilize a president in any country that them have what them call investment that's going to work for the benefit of their people. We saw what they did to the Venezuelan man. They were so good they managed to kill him. And you look at Venezuela now, their economy devastated. When they can't get in to get what they want, they will create turmoil inside that country. And what they tend to do, they get to the people with all these little trinkets. Yeah? All these little trinkets and get the people them. And so the people become westernized themselves. So when you try to pull them away now from that Western concept of need, greed, and want, it's like taking crack away from a drug addict. And then the people themselves implode upon themselves. These are very sinister forces that we're dealing with, and they're very clever. Do not underestimate them and their ability to infiltrate your governments. Train other African program where you're Africating the children them for the next few generations. Because what they tend to do, they come in your country, them say them come to do here, they're coming to help people. Them take some little poor poor youth who are starved somewhere, something like that. Then bring them back to them country, them train them up, and then them send them back. If you remember Amin, when Amin had the issue with Asians in Uganda, Amin himself said, you know, you, the British, feel you was training me to come and betray my people. But I played your trick back on you. You understand me? Amin had white people carry him on them shoulders like a king. And we need people like Amin again. My teacher taught me. He said, any black leader you see the West a support is a black leader you have to keep your eye on. You understand what I'm saying to you? Now, I know that this might seem very scary to a lot of people. And we're not going to be liked for the comments that we make. But we're not here to be liked. We're here to tell the truth. And advocate and open the minds of Africans on the continent. That when you see Africans like us come there trying to do something, support us. But we're not coming to steal and rob Africa. We're coming to contribute to Africa. But when the Wazungu come, and we come with him all for money, like him give things, but what he's getting out from what he's giving to you is 1,000% more. He has never done anything for the benefit of African people. And as far as I'm concerned, they never will.
Share. Rise up, prophets. Have to agree with you on that. A leper never changes its spots, but you know, so many of us seem to live in hope. Brother Leader Bandaka, you know, back over to you now, Leader, to hear your thoughts on the points I was making as well, the questions that I was asking before, or if you want to address any of the points that have been made in the chat, let's hear from you now.
Mari, just help me, Sister Shanice. Just remind me of the crux of the question, because I know it was a very important question. If you can.
Me can't remember.
It was
I was so absorbed in Brother Kweku's response.
It was to do with the leaders them in Africa, and you know, what do we think about them working with Europeans in terms of the investment in Africa? You understand me?
Yeah. You know, I was formulating, as you're asking the question, I was formulating a response in my head, and sometimes I note it down, you know, so just to make sure I have that aid memoir, but I didn't note it down, my sister. But as I said earlier on, we have a very, very serious problem with the.
I remember what it was now. Thanks for trying to help me there, Prophet. I remember what it was. We were talking about the African Free Trade Agreement, and we were saying, you know, to what extent are these individual, UK, Africa, Chinese Africa, Indian Africa, Russian Africa trade agreements likely to undermine the overarching vision of the 55 African countries to, you know, form a trade pact, a 1.2 billion people trade pact. So, you know, that is the vision for Africa. That is the direction of travel. But what we're seeing outside of that are all the other countries around the world, you know, trying to nevertheless still have their individual, you know, separate agreements with the individual 55 African countries, which, you know, could potentially to some extent go a long way in undermining Africa's you know, potential to become a real force, a real economic force that they would be if they were to close the door to all of those other countries. But maybe that's just the way I'm seeing it. So I wanted to hear from you. I hope we have from Prof. I wanted to hear from you as well, Leader. To what extent are these individual trade agreements likely to undermine, you know, the overarching African vision for economic unity and empowerment?
Tenai Mwari. Well, for a start, these bilateral trade arrangements between these big powers and these relatively small African nations with very small economies are non-viable. They're just not workable. They just can't work. But it lends itself nicely to economic bullying, economic exploitation. It lends itself nicely to that. Okay? So what we need is, as the Osagifo said, and as the Osagifo tried to forge when he became president of Ghana, he made it clear to the entire African continent, at least, you know, those who became independent, that these nations, these little nation states, were not viable. That the geographical construction of the African continent was a colonial configuration that will not work in Africa's interest, and that there is need for a union of African states with one economy, one central bank, one single currency, one single market, one African Union army, one, let me say it again, one African Union army. Because now we have to defend.
That's right.
We have to defend our economic interests. We have to defend our political interests. Yeah? You know, Africa is defenseless as we speak. Africa don't have no army, you know. Africa don't have no army.
You know.
If Africa did have army, would America have the military forces in 35 African countries? So they're training them and funding them. They have Uganda, yeah, playing proxy in East Africa, right? The Ugandan army is totally controlled by the Americans. It's funded by the Americans, it's trained by the Americans, it's controlled by the Americans, and it's used to police East and Northeast Africa, right? Is that your hand up, Brother Kweku?
No, but Nadi said that. What there's an interesting book that I think people should read, and it's called Islam and Slavery in Africa. Because I remember in the great debate many years ago, Brother Mandaka, when you made a statement that when the Europeans came to Africa and claimed that they saw Africans selling Africans, what they were seeing was Africans who had engaged in a foreign doctrine and didn't see their brothers and sisters as brothers and sisters again, and was selling Africans who were non-Muslim. And the eastern part of Africa was controlled by Africans who became Islamized, so to speak.
And Arabized.
Yeah, and Arabized. And as our teachers tell us, that religion is the deification of a people's culture. And so what came with the Arabs was their culture, and then what came with the Turks was their culture. Even though they were both Muslim, they had a different culture. And so when you make that statement, what you just make is so piant, and that's all I was saying, Maki. because of that explanation there. These people are able to transfer the mentality of our people against their own people and even against their own interests.
Tendai Mwari, you mentioned, I just want to expand on that point I made just now about Africa having no army. And tie that in with a point that Brother Kweku made earlier on about Muammar Gaddafi. And we have to be very careful about Gaddafi. There are some of us who think that Gaddafi was a Pan-Africanist. I'm quite clear he was not a Pan-Africanist. He was an Arab expansionist who wanted to unite the African continent as a power base in order to launch his pan-Arab expansion in the Arab world. He was never accepted as a leader in the Arab world, but he wanted to create a power base from which he could enforce his vision on the Arab world. That's what Gaddafi was doing. I'm quite clear about that. Now, I debate anybody on that issue. But let me leave that part there for a moment. He was the leader of a nation on the African continent. And African land must be rendered not only sacred, but sovereign. And therefore, Africa must be able to protect itself from outside invasions. Now, when the gun-ho Europeans were flexing their muscles in Europe, threatening to invade Libya, they asked the African continent its opinion, and the AU voted against an invasion of Libya. Right? Then they say, well, why you can go and vote and say what you want to say. The Arab world voted in favor because the Arab world don't like Gaddafi. So the Arab world voted in favor, and based on that, based on the Arab world voting in favor of an invasion of sovereign African territory, right? Because that sovereign African territory is part of the Arab world. It's the contradiction, right? So there's a cultural issue there, Brother Kweku, right? There's a cultural issue there. Yeah, there's a geopolitical issue there, and there's an issue of military non-existence, because even though the AU did not agree with the foreign forces invading Libya, they couldn't do nothing about it because they don't have no army.
Don't have no army. Right? And I've been saying this. I've been saying this for the last few weeks, Brother Mbandaka. It's no use. There's no use with beating around the bush. We have to be able to defend ourselves. This is not no joke thing, because this is how they survive around the world, by digging out the resources out of the belly of the continent. Yeah, and they dig out more than they need. We must remember that the planet is a living entity. It's a living organ. You can't just dig out everything willy-nilly so because you want to look good in it. You understand me? I say we cannot do that, and that is not traditional. And I always use this terminology. That's not traditional African behavior. We don't just go and steal from Mama Earth like that without checking with the stars and the astrology and the time and leaving the earth to replenish itself.
That is the reason why they call us animists and idolatrous, because when the African went to the land, sorry to interrupt you, Brother Quick, I'll be very short. When the African went to the land,
go on.
We bless the land. We pour libation, we bless the land. We ask permission of the land, to work the land. We before we chop down a tree, if we needed to chop down, before we even pick a fruit from a tree, right? We talk to the tree. We ask the tree if we can take a fruit. And these backward people came and saw us relating to Mother Nature, right? And so we worship idol and we idolatrous and all kind of fool word. Now you see them attack the tree. They just discover say you can, Reason with a
Hug a
tree. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go hug
and
a
reason
tree.
with a tree, yeah.
Go ahead, brother, quick. I interrupted you.
No. I interrupted you. So with us cross referencing and things like that.
All right, interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's important, right, for our defense, because make no beans about it. If they feel that they're going to be in a position where them have to really start digging at them pocket for pay for what them have, they will go to war. Make no beans about it. Yeah, I teach my students, figure out a way to deal with them case. This is not no joke thing. This is how them behave.
That's
They
right.
don't like sharing. They don't even like sharing with themselves. All them are going to come share with me. So they were able to do all of this primarily because we have dissidents in our various parts of Africa. We're no different than any other group. Look what them are do down in the Malaysian country they know. Where them are kill off each other. So Africans are not the only people that kill each other. But we have to come to a point where we rid out, we wash out. We need a wash out. We need a cultural wash out of those people them that are so stuck on Eurocentrism and don't recognize. You cannot have a country and you're teaching the people in your country that the motherland is not their country, but them live. The motherland is the colonizer's place. Them speak better English than even the English them were born in England. This is the kind of stuff that's going. They don't teach. You don't teach your children the true story of all these people. All them start speak French, Portuguese, Spanish, English. You don't teach them of the atrocities, so that those children know that they have to work hard to Africate themselves in all various types of science. As Papa Garvey told us, he warned us in the 19th century, the people them that control technology is the people them that will rule the world. Train your children in the higher sciences. You see what I'm saying? So these people
teach that in your homes and everywhere possible. You must teach the higher development of science to your children and make sure that we have a race of scientists par excellence. For in religion and science lies our only hope to withstand the evil designs of modern materialism. That's what we're dealing with. The evil design of modern materialism, and it's going over some of our heads. But let me just say very quickly, Brother Kweko, just very quickly, that even before we can build a strong army, we need to have strong minds. We need to decolonize this. This is messed up. That's the problem. That's the biggest problem. The state of our minds and our souls as a people. I just drop that and come back to Brother Quick.
I agree 100% what you're saying, Brother Mundaka. That the place that we have to Africate most is the mind of the African.
The mind.
And on that note, is 22:37. We went over.
Let me just say very quickly. Thomas Sankara used to say that. I'm trying to remember his wording. That a soldier who has not been ideologically trained is a potential murderer of his people. A soldier is not ideologically trained. Yeah? So Thomas Sankara was clear you had to fix the mind. And in fact, one of the most brilliant strategists of the African continent that we know too little about was a man called Amilcar Cabral. He sent his soldiers among the people when they weren't fighting. They must go among the people, live among the people, plant cabbage, plant food, fix roof, go climb tree and pick fruit for the old woman and go feed her, right? And then got the people to cook for the soldiers. But the soldiers had to work for the people. You have to go in the village and work for the people, right? So that he intertwined the soldiers and the people, because the soldiers, you are there to serve the people, right? Brilliant strategy he was. We need to study these geniuses that the almighty Mwari Nyakusika, God, the creator of the universe, through Mudzimu Mukuru, the great ancestor, sent among us. And with there some university that study rubbish that can't free with, right? These are the great geniuses that we need to study. And no African leader should be able to stand in as head of an African state unless you really study and know the history of Africa from an African-centered perspective. You have to study Garvey, you have to study Lumumba, you have to study Nkrumah, you have to study Amilcar Cabral, you have to study Thomas Sankara, you have to pass with distinction before you can stand for African nations, say, may your president, may your leader. And we need to get rid of this nonsense, this adversarial political system that them call democracy. That's another loaded term that we yet to understand. We think it's a good thing, right? So let me drop that there. We're going to continue next week, and Kanamwariada, we say Kanamwariada by the will of the Creator.
Okay. My brothers, Prophet Tuti, Prophet Leader, I tell you, I could just continue listening to you both all night, learning at your feet so much. And, the whole discussion around the military in Africa, the role of the military, what they could be doing during peacetime, is a conversation, in its own right, and a show in its own right. Who finances the clothing of our army, who clothes them, who trains them, who they answer to, where they get their equipment from, who are they buying it from, what are the cost of it, to what extent is the equipment that we're buying actually fit for purpose when you consider who we're buying it from. I mean, there are just so many questions that, need to be addressed around that as well, which would be, more than one show in its own right, but something we do most definitely need to look at. Today we started looking at investment and the extent to which, foreign investment actually works for Africa. And now I'd like to turn to the panel. We've still got almost 200 people with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. We've been debating, what say you? To what extent do you think foreign investment is beneficial for Africa? From 0 up to 100%, just let me know in the chat. From 0 up to 100%, 0 is not beneficial at all, 50%, 50-50, 100%, it's beneficial. To what extent do you think foreign investment in Africa is actually beneficial? Let's hear what you say in the chat. We've gone over. I want to thank you both so much for the extra 45 minutes or so that we've gone over. Much appreciate love. Let's see what the chat has to say. We've been having the debate. Now the chat room decides. And then we're going to be continuing with the debate. Okay, we've got 0% from Abini, Jay, 0, Afrijamo, 0, OM, 0%, Anthony Lowe, 0%, Yusuf, 0, Lias, 0, Nali, 0, Queenie, 0, Grace Pete, 0. If all of us so far, 100% of all of those who have voted so far, 100% are saying 0. Danny Fluffy saying 0, are saying that foreign investment in Africa is of no benefit whatsoever to Africa. What does that say? That we need to be Africa's investors, and we are the ones who need to be looking to see how we can invest in Africa to make Africa what we want her to be. And I think the last 500 years, or even the last 50 years, actually reinforces that. Amina, 0. King Ngo says, now is not the time. We must free Africa first. And
Sister Shanice.
there's one person who says 100%. That's interesting.
Sister
Brother,
Shanice.
some last words from our panel before we wrap up. Yes, my brother Maduti, over to you.
I just wanted to say, because we have already debunked what the word investment means, I think we need to attribute a different explanation of what we're talking about. And I would not use that word investment again. We don't want to siege up Africa and surround it and bleed it. So we don't want to invest. We want to contribute and have a mutual contribution so that we and our descendants can benefit from the glory of Mother Africa.
We might want to invest in sorry, go ahead. Finish, Brother Quick. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on, Brother Mbadaka, go on.
Yeah, Tenai, I'm suggesting that we might want to invest in liberating the African continent by surrounding the African continent with hostile forces in order to keep out the invaders. We might want to do that. You mentioned China earlier on, Brother Kweku. That's what China did. That's what China did. China surrounded itself with hostile forces. China have 2.5 million, 2.5, a standing army of 2.5 million, right? On the ground. Anybody want to touch a button, as we say back home in Jamaica, they never know them term there. You know, if somebody affront you, like them want to fight, you say, well, touch a button, you're bad, touch a button. You understand? If they feel them can, you know, if they feel them bad enough to touch a button and you have a fight.
Come test me now.
You come test, that's what we mean. Come test me, touch a button. Probably sometimes you don't even have no button for your shirt, sometimes you're all naked up yourself. You still say touch a button. You understand? So we want to surround Africa with hostile forces, the way the Chinese did. But what the Chinese did too was sort out this. Got rid of them traitors, as Brother Kweko said earlier on, and got rid of a few million of them too. Yeah. And send even their teachers, their lawyers, their doctors, them send them go bush. Go plant cabbage and go plant rice. Right? And learn to be Chinese again. You can't teach our you know, the Chinese shut down the schools and college, the whole educational system. They shut it down for nearly 2 years. They shut it down for nearly 2 years because the Chinese government felt that many of the teachers were not worthy of the minds of the children. They were colonizing the minds of the children, and they either redeemed their mind or got rid of them if they were not redeemable. Right? That's why China is so strong and powerful today. And that's what we need on the African continent. And until we do that, we're going nowhere. Nowhere.
Absolutely agree.
And can I close? Can I close, as I always do, with the words of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey? Unite, organize now or perish. Rise, you mighty African people, for you can accomplish whatever you will. Rumbidzo kunamwari Africa, to the God of Africa, be the glory. Tendai
Mwari. Prophet Maduti, let me go over to you for some closing words, my brother.
A nation of people that cannot defend themselves is a nation of people that will be raped. Let me repeat what I said. A nation of people that cannot defend themselves is a nation of people that will be raped. Raped of your resources, raped of your children, them, raped of your future, raped of your past, raped of your culture, raped of your spiritual practices, raped of your Africational mind. And one day you look in the mirror, you don't know who you are, where you come from, and how you've arrived where you are. So we have to defend ourselves culturally. We have to defend ourselves spiritually. We have to defend ourselves economically. And we have to defend ourselves militarily. and we have to defend ourselves knowledgeably. That's what we have to do. So, with that, yeah, I say Itepe Ineke J.A. Senebe. Divine peace, long life, stability, and good health. Otep.
Otep. Tendai Mwari.
Otep. Mwari. I want to thank our panel members for the very insightful and, as always, very educational conversation and discussion that we've been having this evening. I want to thank everyone in the chat, the live chat, that have kept us going, you know, almost an hour overtime tonight. And, you know, thanks for staying with us despite the challenges that we had at the beginning of the show. If you haven't already given us a thumbs up and given us a like, please do. It helps to push up on the ratings so that it can be picked up on by other channels. We're delighted that an earlier one of our shows was actually picked up by Make Africa Great Again, and within days they had tens of thousands of views. The last time I looked, they had almost 40,000 views based on the conversation that we was having here about Magufuli. So please give us your thumbs up so that, you know, our channel can get picked up on the internet. We're having very interesting discussions and debates here, and you know, it's all about getting the message out to our people, because, you know, as has been said here already, we need to get the mind back of our people, and that's what the Chinese did when they locked themselves down. They got back their Chinese mind, and now for them it's all about China. Everything that they're doing is about China. They are back in the right lane. They're batting for China. They're running for China. They're developing their economy for China. Their military is for the Chinese. Their economy, science, their industry is all for China. And that's what we've got to do. Get back into our right lane. Get back into the African lane, where everything we are doing is first and foremost for Africa. At the moment, some of us are batting for France. We're batting for Europe. We're batting for the highest bidder. Whoever wants to give us a bit of money, we are giving them all of our technological, our scientific, you know, our all of our knowledge and all of our skills. But what we have to do is give that all back to Africa. I just put out a video today. I interviewed a millionaire here in the Gambia who could have been anywhere in the world, could have gone anywhere in the world to invest, but he decided to invest in Africa, in Gambia. And as a result of his investment, he's created over 300 jobs. He's helped so many people here in this small country. And this is what we do when we've got money, you see, whereas if it was a Chinese person, that money and that investment and the funds that they're making in Africa would be going out of Africa and into China. But you see, if it's us as Africans investing in Africa for Africa, it's Africa that gets the benefit. And that's where we've got to get to. So I want to rise up the family. Please rejoin us again, same time next
Before you go,
strong.
Sister Shanice.
Yeah, put the word out to family.
Sister Shanice, before you go,
I'm not going just yet. I'll bring you in. I just want to ask the audience.
I just wanted to rise. I just wanted to rise you up for creating this platform for us to be able to express how we view things on a platform where the rest of the world of our people can see us. Because all too often, us as Africans here in the diaspora, especially here in Britain, do not get the opportunity to speak on platforms to express how we view things and what we would like to do to contribute to Mama Africa. It's almost like we don't exist here on the in the African world. So I just want to big you up for that, sis. You know what I mean? Because it's a great thing that you did.
Prophet. And you know, the platform wouldn't is without the contribution from ones like yourself, Dr. Abu, Leader, and all the other panel members that we've had on this platform, and without our audience and your participation and encouragement. But thank you so much, Prophet, for those words of support. Much appreciated, love. So family, there's 276. 176 in the room. If each of you tell someone and get someone to join us next strong, we will have twice that number. So please do put the word out, encourage your family members and friends to come and join us. Join the family as we have a conversation amongst ourselves, as Prophet was saying, on this platform that's here to enable us to share our views and our opinions. Prophet Leader, Tendai Mwari, Prophet Mediji, Motep, more love, more star power, and in the words of Dr. Akun is absent, more voodoo.
Two words, Sister Shanice. While you were in your flow earlier on, I was just waiting for the opportunity just to say to you, Sister Shanice, you are a genius.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, you are.
Really?
I want you to own that as well, sis. I've said it. I want you to own it. You are an absolute genius.
Thank you so much. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but you know, I'm just doing my little bit for the community. But thank you
let's not end with that argument. Let's not end with that argument now, my sister. We've been doing well.
You
are a genius.
We've all got our skills and talents, and I tell you, both of you are absolutely phenomenal. And it's a privilege and an honor to be able to host you both on this platform. Thank you so much, and I look forward to you both rejoining us next strong, and certainly hope that our guests will be able to log in as well. We've got guests coming again from the continent. Let's hope that they'll be able to join us. Thank you, family. Thank you, friends. One love. See you next strong. Voodoo.
Voodoo.
Voodoo.